Drink it in, man.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what's going on, everybody? This is Oakrey in the house once again. Got Griff on the other end of the line. Griff, how are you, buddy?
Doing good. Excited. Training camp's finally open. Guys are on the field. From what I've heard and seen on TV, there's a lot more stuff to do down there this year. They've the Lions have really taken to heart, getting the fans, doing more stuff for the fans. And just pretty excited to get down there and go see a practice. What about you, D?
Absolutely, man. Hey, Griffka, so speaking of the fan stuff down there, so I'm going through, I got like a little alert, and Tori Petrie, who I don't know if she's ever listened to the podcast, but she's definitely a favorite of ours here at the Detroit Koolaid Cast. She does a tremendous job, don't you think, Griff?
Definitely.
Yes, very, very nice at what she does. And she did a walkthrough of the season ticket holders, kind of like the training camp thing today. And oh man, they got free food, they've got better seating, they've got all these sponsorships, they got a live radio broadcast out there, they've got all types of things. Like, it's just so funny to think, because I remember going not even a handful of years ago, or all the way back, let's go all the way back to like when Calvin signed. I remember going there, and like I think I got out of work or something, and I just went. He still hadn't signed his contract yet. I walked up, parked or whatever, walked in. There wasn't a security person anywhere. There wasn't anything going on. There was one set of bleachers, probably could fit 50 people. I sat down in the front row and just was watching practice. Then all of a sudden, this absolute monster runs out of the building right before practice, number 81. It's biggest human being I'd ever seen, and that was our new receiver. Not a banner, not a anything there other than a football field, and now, like you said, just taking care of their people. So Tori Petrie, tremendous job, and man, we can't wait to get down there tomorrow, Grifka. But a couple other news and notes coming out of today that I heard was a couple of friends were down there, and they said good old Pat, as we call him here on the podcast, Matt Patricia, was very vocal and was getting after the football players, and man, I can't speak higher of that. Like, I'm so happy. I think Jim Caldwell was wearing his black pajamas and was out there with his sunglasses, probably asleep half the time, the way you see him at camp. He never made a motion. He just stood in the middle and never did anything, where Matt Patricia not only is barking at people, but he's out there running drills and got his whistle. And here's another great one, Grifka, is I heard that Marvin Jones caught like a heck of a good touchdown pass, and then he was like not paying attention or didn't have the ball tucked away, and somebody came and knocked the ball out of his hands. Take a lap, everybody. sent him running. I was like, oh great, this is what we need. Like, I know these guys don't need to be totally crushed all day, but come on, let's get some accountability and let's get some somebody that'll get up in you, because you can't have a best buddy all day as your head coach. So I was super happy to hear about that.
Yeah, that's good news. And we're just wondering, maybe after practice they'll do like Steve Mariucci and do like the Easter eggs, where he throws the Gatorade out in the grass and makes the guys go get their favorite flavor.
Speaking of Mooch, so I'm watching NFL Network today, and they're showing all the mic'd up of Mooch with the Lions. Oh my gosh, like it was nauseating. Like, he was just all the stuff he was saying, or his energy and going around, it was just like frustrating me, because I remember as a new fan back in the day then, how he kind of everybody's all excited about him, and now I just look at him as such a rah-rah, like, I don't know. He just didn't come across as like a football guy. All the stuff he was doing and saying, it was just so gimmicky. But that was weird. And then Grifka, I know you wanted to hit real quick as we're doing news and notes. The Lions did make a signing the other day, which I know you were a fan of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy they signed Ricky Jean. I mean, once again, I know we had talked about this before, getting tired of maybe signing all the former Patriot players. But I still think Ricky Jean, he's a guy that can play anywhere up and down that line. Once again, he does know the system. I think was it like last year? Maybe he only had like 6 tackles or something like that. I saw his stats after they signed him, and they weren't like that impressive. But so I'm not expecting him to be a starter. more rotation guy, push the younger guys that, show them the ways of the NFL and how to be a true pro. So I'm happy with the signing. I know a lot of people were pushing for Jonathan Hankins, but obviously there was something missing there where the Lions didn't want to sign him because they did bring him in and look at him, but they just maybe Matt, like I said, Matt Pat felt more comfortable bringing in Ricky Jean. So I'm happy with that signing.
Yeah, a little depth on the D-line as well as a guy that's been in the system, been in the league for some years. I mean, I like all that about him. The last thing I want to hit on is, so Matt Stafford got interviewed by NFL Network too. Real good. I mean, just feel really good with this guy at quarterback, and he looks like he's in a good place. But they said, what do you think about Matt Patricia or whatever? And he kind of paused. He goes, he's intense. And I was like, oh, yes, great. So he's even getting after our quarterback a little, or the team in general, which I love. And I'm sure it's in a good way because Patricia had another presser today, and he just came across smart, no nonsense, all about football. So when I say intense or he's getting after people, like, I don't think it's, a negative. I think it's more just he's an intense guy, wants to win. He's done it at a high level at another organization, and it's rubbing off on these guys because they're used to, like I say, the Detroit Lions country club. So I'm so glad that he said that. And he also, I think he said intense, and then he goes, we respect him for where he came from and his track record, and he just wants to win like all the rest of us. And I said, there you go. So no complaining, and just let this coach lead this team. And hearing that from the quarterback was pretty good.
Yeah, that's nice to hear that the quarterback has his back, even though it's still relatively early in the tenure of Matt Patricia. Even though he's intense and maybe makes the guys do a few laps, he realized maybe the team realizes he wants to win. He knows how to win, and he wants to bring that culture to this team.
Yep, I agree. So other than that, we'll keep our eyes and ears out for anything other newsworthy that happens. We just want to kick off the Detroit Koolaid Cast today with a little bit of timely news, but we are finishing up our series today, Dollars and Cents, talking about contracts, talking about player ages, values, where they sit on this roster. And we got, I believe, Griff, we got two major groups left. I think we're looking at O-line and our linebackers. So we have talked about them in the past. We're going to kind of go through them in general and one by one and kind of talk about what money they're making and how they fit on this roster. You ready to do this?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's get this done.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and start on the O-line, Griff. And the first name I got in front of me here is the big signing from last year. And this guy wasn't totally on my radar last year. Didn't think he'd come here. Obviously didn't like him because he's a former Packer, a little bit older, but I knew he was pretty productive over there. And sure enough, all of a sudden, you hear it's not going to happen. And all of a sudden, TJ Lang inks up here with the Lions. And he's 30 years old. He signed a 3-year, $28.5 million deal, making nearly $10 million this year. And we have him for 2018, 2019 seasons under contract. So what are you thinking about TJ? Because I felt like he had a down year last year, both due to injury and just because I didn't feel like he wowed me, but a guard shouldn't. And he did kind of make a Pro Bowl alternate. So talk to me a little bit about TJ Lang.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on that. It seemed like he didn't wow me. He, he was injured here and there, didn't play every game. And, I know it's hard to play every game in the NFL. But still, like you said, I think people are going to be, I don't know, a little looking at him with rose-colored glasses because, like you said, he did make the Pro Bowl last year. And I'm not for sure. It seemed like he just didn't have a Pro Bowl year. I mean, he seemed to have, better years in Green Bay and then, not make the Pro Bowl. But I'm not for sure about how I feel about him. I thought he'd be like a real stabilizer on the offensive line. Him sitting next to Ricky Wagner, but it just seemed like once again I don't know if it's because he's like you said he's 30. I mean 30's not old, but it's not young either. He did. It seemed like he had a few more holding penalties last year than he had in past years. So I don't know if that's once again just with age, technique, or whatever the problem is, but like what he's making, what he brought last year, even though he made the Pro Bowl, I was a little disappointed in him. Now, like you said, we have him $10 million this year. We have him wrapped up, through 2019. I think he's going to be one of those guys. He'll be here the next 2 years, and he's probably going to have to train his understudy, whatever you want to call him, his soon to be replacement. But it's one of those things. I hope his game steps up this year compared to what it was last year, even though he did make the Pro Bowl. And I'd like to see him out there a little more than. And like I said, I know injuries happen in the pros, but he seemed to be injured a little bit more than he had been in the past. So T.J. Lang, I was a little down on him this year, but I hope he has a big bounce back year, especially for what we signed the guy for.
Yeah, I think he's a great guy, both in the locker room and just like a face, good guy in interviews, good, just down to earth dude. But just want to see a little bit more elite play or just keeping that pocket clean. And like you say, it could be due to injury. You talk about the holding penalties. I remember there were some really phantom calls on him a couple times that really brought back some big screen plays and whatnot. So, I expect him to play better, and if I don't notice the guard, sometimes that's not a bad thing. So, maybe he was playing a bit better than we thought as just fans. But he's a big piece of that offensive line, and I'm expecting him to be much better here this year. Need him to be better. So, we got a lot of names here, Grifka. So we're going to try to hit on the main ones for the majority, and then we'll bundle up some of the others. So the next name on my list is the draft pick from this year, 22 years old, Frank Ragnow. He signed a 4-year rookie deal for $11 million, so he's making just around $3 million this year. A guard/center in the first round in the NFL draft is always something that, in the past especially, has been questioned. Nowadays, it seems to be a little bit more normal. I love this guy. I know that Pro Football Focus loves him. I know he wasn't like a main name that we talked about before the draft process, but he definitely was a guy I had heard about and that I knew was a really solid center in his college career, even though he did play a little guard. He was just kind of like a guy where, I don't know, he's just meat and potatoes. He just finds a way to get it done and doesn't let his quarterback get hit. And to me, it's just one of those really safe, nice draft picks that I expect a lot from this guy. I mean, plugging that left guard spot to me is important. You've got a center, right guard in both your tackle spots filled. I mean, to me, I expect the whole unit to be way better. What do you think in Frank Ragnow as the resource they put into him and just the player in general?
I know on a prior podcast we had talked about Frank Ragnow, and I kind of bagged on the guy simply because I'm not a huge fan of taking an interior lineman in the first round. I don't want to rehash all that, so we'll just go into this and say, okay, he's a rookie. He's got the rookie contract. They're obviously going to put some time into him. I know in the more of the off-season, mini camps, he did a lot at guard, and I saw recently that during the preseason here, they are going to try him out at center some. Maybe just as a backup in case Glasgow gets hurt, or maybe he just turns out it's it's his more natural position, and they want him to play center. So, am I expecting big things out of him? Yeah. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't want to say no. I really want him to be good. But once again, I mean, like I said, I'm just always hesitant on interior linemen in the first round. So, like I said, he's a rookie contract. They're gonna hope this guy pans out. I don't see this guy as like a redshirt year. They're gonna play somebody else in his position. Just let this guy, sit back and get some snaps here and there. But I really hope what this guy does is help, solidify either that, that left guard or maybe the center if that's where they ultimately want to play him. And that's how I feel about Ragnow.
For all the people listening out there, will Grifka get one of his famous taglines in within the first 10 minutes? Yes. Should he, or should he have waited till the end? No, it was awesome. So Grifka got it in for everybody out there that's found that to be a funny gimmick. But we definitely differ on Frank Ragnow. I mean, to me, it's not about the position per se. It's about the player. And to me, obviously we have to see him, but I think this guy could just be had him at center, guard, wherever it may be. I think he's just going to be a really good offensive lineman for this team. And that's what we've been wanting and needing for years. So like you said, we don't have to go back over that, but a dominant O-line and a dominant defense would be really nice because we already feel good about our O for the most part. So let's move on. let's go to Kenny Wiggins is the next name on my list, the guy that we brought in from the Chargers. He's on a 2-year deal, $5 million, $2.5 million per for Kenny Wiggins. Keep it short, but give me your thoughts on him, Grifka.
He's cheap and he's there to compete. He's there just the guys in front of him. Maybe they look over their shoulder a little bit to know that somebody maybe is capable of taking their spot. That's what he's there for. Once again, if he ends up starting on the offensive line, that means there's a few other guys that missed, or it's injuries. That's how I feel about Kenny Wiggins.
Yeah, I don't see him as a starter at all, but I remember reading up on him a little bit. Like, I think Pro Football Focus liked him too, and he just kind of a solid lineman, started some games with the Chargers. So I think that our backups are still going to be important there on the O-line, like $2.5 million. I mean, I don't know, if he makes the team or whatever, but I think that, there could be some value there. But like I say, nothing very exciting. So hopefully he's a good backup or a good versatile piece. I don't know if he can play both guards or if he plays any center, but you got to have some versatility if you're going to make the team in there. Next name on the list, Graham Glasgow. This is the guy out of Michigan that we took in the 3rd round a couple of years ago. Kind of surprised me. I had him a little bit lower, but I remember liking him. I liked him as a player. I just was like, I think I had a 4th or 5th round type grade on him. And when they took him in the 3rd, I was kind of is that a reach? But then I liked that he started right away on the left guard spot. And now he's moving into center, it appears. I know you said Ragnow might play some center, but I feel like they're totally set on him at guard. So I expect Glasgow to be in the middle there. And I don't know. I like it. He's only 26 years old, 4-year deal, $3 million, not even making $750,000 this year. And I feel good about him. I think that he's going to make strides. He can push people around a little bit in the run game, just tighten up his pass blocking a little bit. And I like him as a player.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he's gritty. He's tough. He's solid, not spectacular. But like you said, he's one of those guys, if we don't hear his name on Sundays, that means he's doing pretty well. That's what I like. That's what I'd like to hear. I think he's from what I've read about him, from what I've seen, it seems like he knows the game. He's pretty intelligent. So I would prefer him at center over Ragnow, simply because he's been there before. He kind of knows the ropes. He's seen more pro defenses, even though Ragnow, played in the SEC. It's supposed to be the best college league, and everybody calls it the pro minor leagues or whatever. But still, there's obviously a big jump in between. I think I'd feel less comfortable having a rookie trying to protect our golden boy as opposed to, Graham Glasgow's been in the league a few years. He knows what he's looking for. I like this guy. His age, he's cheap, in terms of what pay is. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with him on the team. I like him starting at center.
But the crazy part is, like, every time he played left guard and started, but he was just kind of okay to average. But it seemed like every time he moved into the center, he was above average. He almost got better just by shifting over a spot and being able to make the calls and move people around. So I think for some reason he just plays better in the middle there. But yeah, glad to have him around. One of the best mustaches in the game. He's got the crazy personality. I've seen some interviews with him where he's just a funny guy that, like an O lineman, where he can be funny, but then he also just never wants to talk or be out front. And that's what I think we have now. We have 5 guys up front that, aren't looking for the spotlight, but do have a little bit of personality and that just want to block people and play football. And that's what we need. So feel good about the overall mix we got. Now, next name on the list is Terrell Crosby, this guy that I was super happy. It was crazy. He just fell in the draft. I had him high on my list, even though we didn't really need an old lineman. As he kept falling, I go with that. Once you get to a certain point, you just have to take the best guy around, and he seemed like one of the top players when they took him. So they have him listed as a guard here, 22 years old, 4 years, $2.7 million total. So he's only making $686,000 this year. Got him for 18-19, got him for a good 4-year contract as a rookie. So I like this guy. I mean, the only thing I worry about with Terrell Crosby is when I saw some interviews and stuff with him, it reminded me, like, is he a guy that Like, is he tough enough? He had almost that like speech or just that personality where you think, man, this guy can get it done in the trenches. He just didn't seem to have that personality like I just talked about with Glasgow and what Ragnow has, and even Wagner on that other side. They seem to have offensive lineman type personalities. But this guy, I don't know. I mean, maybe he just turns it on Sundays and is a mauler. But I love his overall game. His college tape was good. And you got to love a rookie contract and depth on the O-line. So, again, another player I like, especially adding to the beef up front.
Yeah, I like him also. Once again, just rookie contract. I think for him, he's going to have to be on the team. I think if they try to sneak him on the practice squad, somebody's going to sign him off. So I think he's going to have to be one that's going to be on the team. Based on from what we heard, draft day, even from ESPN, NFL Network, they were all kind of surprised he kind of slipped that far too. But he'll have to make the team, and he's just going to be a learning curve is what it'll be. He'll be there. He could be that TJ Lang replacement in a couple of years, like how we were talking about that. The one thing I just kind of worry about, once again, he was out at Oregon and they run more of that, that spread where you don't fire off the ball and hit people. It's more of kind of like more of a zone block, just kind of get in the D-line's way, let the running back or the quarterback, choose the hole then at that point, where more of the pros is like, they really want you to come off, explode off. I mean, there are some teams that do run that zone read offense with the offensive line. You just kind of block an area and let the running back do the work. But that's kind of what Oregon ran the whole time. And I think Patricia's looking for more of a downhill smash guys off the ball, off the D line, and give your running backs more room. So that's kind of my worry about him. So I think he's going to have to develop into that. But yeah, I'm happy with that pick.
Yeah, hopefully he finds a role on a team, or just to me he's got to be a backup guard on both sides, and then between one of these other guys we'll talk about has to be that guy that can play center and both guards if you're going to keep an extra couple linemen up, would be my opinion. And I'd love for Crosby to be that guy, and I love this next guy too, Joe Dahl. Like, to me, he was just a pass blocker when we drafted him. But then all I heard was he was doing so great in camp and getting all this praise. But then they've never really used him or played him. And then finally somebody got hurt or whatever, and Joe Dahl came in, and I thought he was more than good. So I don't know what the deal is. It seems like you hear all this buzz, and he'll be like on that 53, or he's gonna be a backup lineman, and then he just disappears or he never gets in. So I don't know what his role is on the team, but I like him overall as a player. His physique, his contract is, $650,000 again this year, basically, and we have him for another year or two. So you got to figure out, he's either going to make the team and find a role this year, or I bet you he gets booted. But I like Joe Dahl.
Yeah, Joe Dahl is one of those guys that we've spoken, as we go through the team. He's one of those guys that reminds me of what we see, here and there. Maybe we are looking at him with rose-colored glasses. We want him to be good. So when we watch the games, we're like, yeah, he doesn't look that bad. He doesn't look that bad. But I don't know. I'm thinking maybe, once again, we're not seeing something on the field at practice that the coach is like, he doesn't have it. Because you're right. It always seems like we always want, gosh, how come he's not touching the field? We like him. We like what he sees. But you're right. It seems like when he gets in there, it's like he's either a healthy scratch or he's finally on the roster. He's finally on the game day roster when somebody's hurt. So, like you said, this is really his make or break year. I mean, based on.
But do you remember when he played though? I mean, he was good when he got in for like a whole game.
Right.
He was real good.
It kind of reminds me of, remember Riley Reif's rookie year, when it's like, how come this guy's not starting? How come he's not starting? And then when he goes in there and plays, like, gosh, he really wasn't that bad. And then he eventually took over the starters because I think it's because he's a first round pick. You're gonna have to play the guy. But Joe Dahl, they got him, third, fourth, fifth round, something like that, late. So, there's not a whole lot invested in him. And like I said, maybe he's just not picking something up. He's obviously not getting something in practices where the coach is like, we can't trust him. So I don't know. I think this is really his make or break year. He's going to have to show something, but, I could see him being, cut. I could, based on, it seems like he's been around. If he doesn't start with something in the preseason, yeah, I don't think they're going to hang on to him. They may keep, somebody else.
Yeah, well, that's right before we start moving on to the tackles. I wanted to ask you. So we just went over Crosby, Dahl, and Wiggins. Like, to me, there's only room for one, maybe two of those guys. So what are you doing out of those three?
Well, like you said, I think it's going to have to be somebody who can kind of play those middle three spots. Like I said, I think Crosby got a lot of buzz. If he shows something, I don't think they're going to be able to hide that guy in the practice squad. He may be one of those guys that makes the 55, and then he's always a healthy scratch. But if you're looking for somebody who can play all those interior positions, like you said, they signed Wiggins. He's been around the block a little bit. He knows what's going on. He may be the guy that Patricia trusts. Protecting Matt Stafford. So he could be the guy. That would be the guy I'm feeling right now without seeing any practice or any games or anything like that.
Is who?
Kenny Wiggins to be that interior guy.
Okay. I mean, I definitely think there's no doubt you're protecting Crosby. Like, there's no way he would get booted or be on even the practice squad at this point. So he's in. I don't know. I mean, I guess, again, I just lean towards youth and Joe Dahl, but, there's another, I didn't even see him here on my list, but they signed that center from the Jets who was, like, rated the worst center in football.
Oh, I remember what you're talking about. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Yeah. I almost just think, like, because you have Ragnow, we're already set with our centers, so it's either going to be Glaz in there if he's healthy, or if he gets hurt, then Ragnow slides over. So that's why I'm leaning towards keeping Crosby and Dahl, just because, they're guards. They don't need to be able to play the other position, but I guess, like you said, if Wiggins is better, he's better. But like you say, let's move on to our tackles. Let's just talk about the right side here. I only have one right tackle. I don't know who our backups are on this team, but I know we've been Corny Lucas and all these guys have been over there backing up, but Ricky Wagner, man, big signing last year, 5 years, $47.5 million, making $9.5 on average over that contract. To me, well, I'll let you take this one, Griff. Ricky Wagner, what'd you think when they signed him? What'd you think last year, and what's he going to do this year?
Ricky Wagner, I was very happy when they signed him. He was supposed to be the best right tackle out there, playing in Baltimore. Once again, one of those, try to be the power running teams because, Joe Flacco isn't, he can throw the ball, but he's not a gunslinger out there. So they Baltimore like to run the ball a little more. So I was very happy that they signed him. I'm like, okay, the money, fine, we're protecting him. Money's no object on this guy. He's supposed to be the best right tackle. And once again, I was pretty disappointed in his play. Not happy with, exactly, what happened. Once again, I don't know if it was just learning a new scheme or just a new, left guard or new right guard next to him or whatever like that. I'm not for sure. Once again, like I said, and when I thought it was like, hey, money's no object. Cool, we got this guy. We're good because, at left tackle, we don't have as much money spent in, in Taylor Decker. But, as his contract goes along, man, his salary starts to grow, so, I was looking at this and near the end of it, I mean, his contract's pretty high. It might be one of those things where if he really doesn't, play all that well the next couple of years, it's either going to have to be a rework or he might end up being like one of those cap casualty guys. It's just like, we don't want to pay this guy. We're going to get rid of him because near the end of his contract, the cap hit nearly isn't that bad. So I really want him to improve this year because the Lions really need him to be in there a lot more than what he was last year. Because like you said, I don't know who the backup's going to be, or been trying on that, and I know they signed a couple other guys that are pretty cheap, and we don't know if they can play out there or not. But I hope his play really improves for especially what we're paying him.
Yeah, I was just pulling up a little bit about his contract. One thing for the Kool-Aid drinkers out there and people that have been listening to these Dollars and Cents episodes, we could spend a ton of time getting into all the contract details and the signing, the base salary, all that type of stuff. We have all that. We've looked at it, but what we're kind of doing when we give you the numbers is just his average amount over the life of the contract. So like Griffith said, if we drill into the details a little bit, it does look like it keeps going up from not to get too detailed here, but his cap hit in 2019 is up in the $12 million range, and then it continues to be up at $12 million cap hit, and then it says there's a potential out in 2020. I don't know if that's for, I would assume that's for the team if they'd want to get out at that point. So I agree with you, Grifka. I think it's one of those that does sort of escalate, but this guy has to be better too, in my opinion. I mean, he was fine, and I'm glad he's fine because I always felt like the right side was an absolute mess before he got here. You know, it was just like, oh my gosh, who's going to block the right side? You know, it was somebody new every other week, or it was just, you know, nobody that good over there. So he's got to be better with the contract that he signed, but I think that he should have a better year this year, just being here a year and knowing, I don't know, just kind of getting comfortable and stuff. I mean, I like him again, his whole build, personality, college that he came out of Wisconsin. So I'm totally fine with him being here, and I really don't see him getting dropped. I see him just getting a little bit better every year and solidifying that right side, both with TJ here, and then also feel good. I want to talk for a second about, we just got off of Crosby. To me, Crosby's that guy that, yeah, he can play guard and maul and do some things inside, but I think you could put him out on the right and he'd be fine. Or he could back up Taylor Decker on the left if needed. So I love that position flex and feel like we don't have to have Corny Lucas and who's the other guy that's been over on the right side a lot that's just an absolute turnstile.
Yeah, I can't remember. I just always remember Corey Robinson over there.
Corey Robinson and Cornelius Lucas. Yeah,
yeah,
those are the
Cornelius
main two
Lucas,
that have been over there. But, yeah, I'm just glad. Hopefully we don't have to go there. And even if Wagner was to get dinged up, I feel like the rookie could move over and be better than we've had in the past. So I feel good about him. But, yeah, he's not making peanuts, that's for sure. So glad he's here. And Rick Wagner hopefully can get going. Grifka, you want to kick us off with our tackles?
Yeah, let's we'll
talk.
Left
side. Get us on the left side.
Okay, yeah, we'll go over to Taylor Decker here. Under the rookie contract, you know, making like 1.4, 1.5 this year. You know, obviously increases next year. He's only 23 years old. I mean, first round pick. They're obviously expecting this guy to be the stonewall out there at left tackle to protect the blind side. I know him being hurt half of last year sent his development back a little bit. I think what happened was when he came back, everybody was expecting him to just be like the top of his game. Well, obviously he didn't, you know, practice at all in the preseason, missed half the season. You know, I mean, obviously he had to get some rust, you know, kicked off before he was actually, you know, back to his old self. And near the end of the year, I thought he played pretty well again. You know, it just took a little longer with him missing so much time. I guess I'm still, you know, I hope that half year really, you know, didn't set him back, his development back that much. I think, you know, coming out of powerhouse Ohio State, he should know how to, you know, he's got the basics down. It seems like Ohio State pumps out a lot of good offensive linemen. So I'm just hoping, you know.
Did you just say Ohio State twice on the podcast, Grifka? You know, this is the Detroit Koolaid Cast,
but
right?
He went to Ohio State, so I have to, you know, at least mention it.
That team down south.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I don't know.
Get it right.
Okay. But, yeah, I just want him to, you know, once again, want his development to continue, want him to be able to protect, you know, Stafford's blind side for, you know, a number of years to come.
Yeah, man, when they drafted Taylor Decker, I had him on my draft board, and he was supposed to go right around that 20 mark. But when they took him, I was kind of like, I didn't know if I loved the pick or if I was kind of like, you know, I don't know. He wasn't said to be a big, like, run blocker. He was good in the pass game and some other things. But, man, as this guy from, I mean, year one, he was tremendous. He just came in and never noticed him over there. Always seemed to be on his blocks, like really like him. He's still only 23 years old here in his third year. Like you said, he went to a big school. He's played at a high level. Like, to me, there's nothing not to like about this guy. And he's a former basketball player, so that's where he gets like his feet. And he just kind of, he has a crazy, like, to me, a football personality. Like, every interview I see about him, he's just like, I haven't proved anything yet. I made Pro Bowls, haven't done anything. Or he was like that his whole rookie year. So he just keeps his nose to the grindstone. And I don't know, to me, like, this is one of the cornerstones of our team. Unless something crazy was to happen this year. But I don't expect anything but good things. I love the contract. This is, again, why you take offensive tackles, defensive ends, corners, quarterbacks, much as you can in the first round. Now I know I defended Ragnow saying like it almost doesn't matter now, but it doesn't matter if you find a guy that's good for your team, but it does matter when you take a premier position that pans out, because we got a left tackle for another couple years on, like you said, $1 to $3 million bucks, and if he keeps playing at a high level, I would do him a solid in the next year or two and extend him out, because I think the guy's that good of a person and a football player, and like I say, probably one of the top 4 or 5 players on the whole team, if you ask me.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. He's very important to the success of the team this year.
Definitely, and just we don't want to take it for granted that he's not hurt both here in the preseason and to heading into preseason and the first game. I mean, that really derailed our year last year, not having him over there, having to piece it together. We don't even want to talk about Greg Robinson, where I thought that was a good roll of the dice by Bob Quinn, but that's probably the worst move he's made. And putting him over there was just an absolute disaster from day one.
Yeah.
So we should notice a big difference on the left side, and that makes a huge difference to the blind side of the quarterback. Yep. So we don't want to take that for granted by any means. Who you got next?
We're going to talk about Corey Robinson. I know we brought his name up a few other times here, but once again, he's 26 years old. He's in the last year of his contract. He's probably going to be the main backup at the tackles right now. So once again, if he's out there starting, he's going to – hopefully he's only that guy if, the offensive tackle shoe comes untied or his freaking chin strap comes off or whatever, needs to come off the field for a play or two. That's what he's in there for. If Corey Robinson's out there for an extended period amount of time, that really puts a big damper on how good this offensive line can be. I wish we had a better depth at tackle, but like you said, we've spent kind of money up front for some of those other guys instead. The starters. So those starters need to stay healthy, because Corey Robinson, even in the last year of his contract, if he does pretty good, maybe bring him back again. Like I said, he's only 26. So he could probably be a good backup. I don't see this guy ever being a solid starter, though.
Yeah, man. I'm torn, because I feel like it doesn't kill you if he was to do okay and you just can fit him on the roster. But to me, there's just not going to be enough room to keep a guy like this that's never really been a very good football player, no matter what his age or his contract. So in this case, I'm all for keeping younger guys on good contracts. But to me, Corey Robinson, we have to move on from. And I already detailed how Crosby, if all goes well, he played left tackle. I think in college he should be able to play the right. And if he has some interior abilities, great. I heard in the drafts he doesn't, but if he has any flex to him, to me, he could be a backup on 4 positions or so, even 5 maybe. That's why I said I'd go with Terrell Crosby as our right tackle backup. So I'm ready to move on from Corey Robinson. See ya.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be sad if he got cut. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I am looking at the rest of these names though, and it's weird. Like, I like our O-line depth, but I also look at the rest of these tackles, and I think, oh boy, there's only one name I like, and it's probably a name that you and most others either don't know or have never heard of.
Who's that?
I like this kid, Adam Biznawadi, man. I remember reading up on him. I think, I want to say Pittsburgh. He played left tackle. He's a big dude. I want to say he's like 6'6 plus. And I remember he was like in the top 5 tackles of his draft class, maybe a little bit lower than that. But he dropped down the draft board, and I think he's had some injuries. But I like this guy. I think they picked him off the scrap heap, and I think, I don't know where he fits in roster construction, but I think that with some good coaching and maybe a year or so, he could be a nice little find.
Yeah, he's a camp body. That's all there is to it. He's a camp body. So, the first few weeks and the last week, he'll be out there playing. He'll be out there most of the game, but ultimately he's not going to make the team.
Okay, I like him. 6th round here out of Pittsburgh, but I remember in that draft, if you go back and look, he was projected to be a 2nd or 3rd rounder and kind of fell down and just only played the 1 year with the Giants. So I don't know.
That's not just falling down, man. If you're projected to be a 2nd round, don't get taken until the 6th, and then you can't make it on the Giants O-line, who's been terrible. I mean, that's saying something right there.
Yeah, he was injured a bunch. Go read his injury history. Like he had a bad injury, I think, coming out in the draft or right before that, and he was hurt. He was hurt in the first year. What are you going to do? I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm not saying he's going to be a starter or anything. I'm just saying sometimes it's good when they go find these guys that haven't even really had a chance yet at a premier position and get him in here.
Oh, yeah.
What else are you looking at both at tackle that we need to talk
Oh
about?
no, I thought that guy. I remember last year with the Brian Mahalik. Is that who it was?
Yeah.
I mean, he was pressed into service late in the year through all the injuries, and I can't remember what game it was where they were talking about it, and they're like, "Oh gosh, he's out there," and that's what the commentators were saying. He actually did, pretty decent, for being pressed into service and not having obviously taking a whole lot of snaps in practice. So he might be a guy. Once again, I mean, he's 25 years old. Like you said, like you were just talking about, Biznatwi or whatever his name is. Maybe a little more, coaching up, and he could fill that role as one of those backups, that does okay when there's a dire need for a player on the O-line. That's kind of the guy I was thinking of right there.
The thing we got to remember, though, like we're going through all these names, and we need to get going on these linebackers. But to me, we're talking about all these positions for the people, but really, when it comes down to it, on a game day, you got a right tackle, a left tackle, and then hopefully a flex guy or two. Maybe you keep two tackles up, but usually I think only the one who can play right or left in a perfect scenario. So a lot of these guys, they just don't fit the roster at all, no matter what they do. I don't see you keeping more than four tackles, maybe five.
Yeah, but you're right. That fifth one better be able to play somewhere else as well. He better be able to play a few different positions.
Yeah, but we already talked about that's our guy, Crosby. He plays almost all the positions, and he's young, and we put a draft resource. So, that's what makes all these other guys null and void to me. But the other name I like, I'm pulling him up right now. You're going to say he's a camp body, too. But there was buzz, too, about Dan Skipper coming out. He went undrafted, it says, which surprises me. Again, I wish I'd have done a little more looking up at the history, because I remember he was coming out of Arkansas. He had that pedigree of that he had a good college career. I think he had some injuries, and he went to the Cowboys, which obviously you can't play anywhere there on that line. And he got booted, and when we signed him, I was kind of like, oh, man, Dan Skipper, I know that name. And he's there, too. So to me, Crosby's that guy that moves around. Dan Skipper, Biznatwi are my two picks that might sneak up and be a guy to keep around the practice squad, because they are so young and because they haven't, they're not veterans. Like, you can't do anything with Wiggins, right? He either makes it or he's gone.
Yeah, he's.
But these other guys you can tuck away a little bit. So those are my two, and you like you like Mahalik. So There we go.
Yeah, let's move on to linebackers. I'm kind of tired of talking about these guys on the O-line that are no longer going to, make the team or even have to worry about.
Absolutely. But before we move on, I just want to say we've talked about it before. The O-line, Grifka, is going to be one of my favorite things to watch or see how it impacts their team this year, because we probably have put top 5, would you say, top 8 resources in the NFL to our O-line as far as draft picks and money.
Yeah.
So these guys need to keep our quarterback clean. They need to push people around, which I've barely ever seen a Lions O-line do in my lifetime. Push people around, move the sticks, actually get nasty on people. Like, to me, that's what I need to see to get our money's worth, is a lot of production, both in the run game from them, a lot less sacks. I mean, I think we've been in with the top 10 at least, if not higher, in sacks the last couple of years, 40 or 50 every year from Matt Stafford getting put on the ground. So they need to be way better. Bob Quinn's done his job. Now they need to do theirs.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. This O-line needs to be productive for this Lions team to be do any damage in the NFC North this year. And I know that sounds trite, and a lot of teams say that, well, yeah, if everybody's all line. Yeah, but there's some guys that can, scramble a little more, make plays. I mean, we've seen, Stafford run for his life a little bit, but, he's only successful if he's going to be in the pocket making the throws. He's not a guy that's going to, bootleg out to the right or left and, make some play like that. That's not his game. So he's the guy that needs to stand
And
up right in the
somebody,
pocket.
and somebody projected Carry On to run for 300-yard games this year. I heard on some podcast, and they were kind of like, 300-yard games, like for most high-end rookies, it's kind of like, that would be an okay year. Like, to me, not only would that be incredible and something we haven't seen in a while, but that'd hopefully just be the start of maybe what we could get going on the ground. Because I'm so sick of watching us run for 20 yards in a game, run, from one running back. Like, we usually piece it together and get like 100 yards, which is still pathetic.
Yeah.
But could you imagine, like, Carry On ripping off 125 and a couple touchdowns in a game this year? Like, to me, that's an automatic W when we start doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it's sad when after the year, like, your leading rusher on the team, it's just like, yeah, he led the team in rushing, and it was for 576 yards. It's just like, are you kidding me? That's like some guy's quarter season right there. And, well, they used a lot of different guys. Don't give me that garbage, man. I mean, I know the days of the workhorse running back are gone, but we need the O-line to be able to bust some holes open. Like you said, like Carry On, get 100 and, 125 and a couple TDs, something like that. I'm not saying he needs 100-yard every game, but, 85, 90, 95, something productive, a touchdown, blow those holes open. That's what this offensive line needs to do.
Right, and the O-line, gets nasty inside the 10 and gets us some actual rushing, banging touchdowns. That's what LeGarrette Blount, we already touched on him before. He's not really an absolute banger, but to me, with a good O-line and with a big old back that's 240 pounds, I'd like to be able to score touchdowns from inside the 5 at a pretty good pace, which I feel like if I looked back at our running back touchdowns over the last years, I guarantee we're in the bottom third for sure.
Yeah, or how about where
more than that?
Or how about where it's like a 4th and 1 or 4th and 6 inches from your 40 or the other team's 48-yard line. And yeah, it's like, let's run a quarterback sneak or something like that. I would love to see that, where it's like, it was always seemed like, oh, well, we're just going to put it away and pin them deep. It's just like, yeah, because you're right, because you couldn't depend on your offensive line to get enough push where your quarterback could fall forward just to get that, that 6 inches. That's what I would love to see, where you can take that chance to do it, as opposed to no, it's like, well, okay, well, our center's going to get blown back, so we might as well just put it away and try to pin them deep and pin it back on the defense to stop them again. So that's what I'd like to see.
Real quick side note before you go to LBs, do you think Matt Pat, from a coaching perspective, is going to be both more of a gambler and more of a, hey, we're going to shove it up your, on 4th and short, or do you think he's going to kick it away?
I think this year he has the keys to the car, man. He's, Quinn's going to let him drive. It's his boy. He doesn't have to be cautious or anything like that. He brought him in. It's just like, and you can almost, it's like, oh, you went for it on 4th and 6 inches and it got stuffed. Oh, should you have punted it? It's just like, well, I'm a rookie coach. Learn that. You could use that for a little bit of time, But, I mean, Belichick did it. I mean, Belichick, it'd be like 4th and 3. It's like, okay, we got Tom Brady. We're going to go out there and do it. So I'm thinking Matt Pat may bring that. Because, I think he's, it's like Bob Quinn. It's his guy. He's going to let him try that stuff. He's going to allow him to do that, as opposed to so cautious. Okay, it's 4th and half an inch, but I don't trust our guys. Let's go get Sam Martin and punt it down there.
Right. Well, I think my favorite moment of the year, one of my favorite moments, is going to be when we do go for it on 4th and short and show some cojones and we get it. And then I see some emotion out of this coach, maybe a fist pump, maybe a yakking, at our players saying good job, rather than good old Jim Caldwell, where he would try to show some gusto the couple times he went for it. We get stuffed 2 yards in the backfield, and what do they show him? Him and his 3 watches over there on one arm clapping away, good job, everybody. Keep it. So it's like, what are you clapping for? You just almost lost us the game. I don't want to see any more of that. If we do a 4th and short and get stuffed, I want to see steam coming out of Matt Patricia's ears. And if we get it, give some dap to your players. To me, that's going to be one of the things. Nothing on the field, just that emotion, I think, is going to be important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's move on to LBs here.
Yeah, let's go to LBs, man. Let's start out with our man in the middle, Jared Davis. Him. What?
I thought you were talking Nick Ballore, but okay, we'll start with Jared Davis.
Yeah, that's your guy. You love him. Jared Davis, man, took him last year, and to me, like, I remember when the draft was going down, you had Reuben Foster on the list, you had a few other players, and Jared Davis was definitely on my list right before the draft. All the buzz came out about him, and that the Lions were interested and that he was going to be there at number 20. And I couldn't love him anymore in the middle. His athleticism, his want to, his smarts, his leadership, his humble spirit. Like, to me, this is the quarterback of our defense, hopefully for the next 5-10 years. And he is on a rookie deal. So Jared Davis is only 23 years old going into this year. 4 years, $10 million, almost $11 million deal in total. So again, on a yearly average across that deal, it's $2.7 million. And got him locked up. And I just heard an interview the other day, and he said everything right, and he just looks like the guy. Grifka, are you going to talk to me for 5 minutes about how he can't cover?
No, actually, I'm not. And even though I realized they did pull him late in the year off the field, in favor of Tahir Whitehead to be the cover guy in the nickel. I'm expecting a big jump out of him this year. I'm looking forward to him being the leader of that defense, even though they signed Kennard and, everybody's expecting a lot on him. And I know we'll touch on him here in a bit. But I'm really expecting that the defense is going to be handed over to Jared Davis. They're expecting him to do big things. He's going to be the guy that's always going to be on the field, even the nickel guy. I mean, he's fast enough to cover it. It's just he has to get his coverage skills down. So I'm really happy with this guy. I like the way he played last year. I realized he was set back a little last year over the cheat shot from your boy Odell Beckham, taking his knee out in the game. But Davis, I'm expecting big things, big and better things out of him this year in his second year with the team. I like this pick a lot. I'm so glad we didn't take Reuben Foster, based on his story now. So I like this guy.
The best thing too is that do you remember the days? It's probably been the last 5 or 10 years where let me go all the way back. It was almost like before I became a fan. I mean, I wasn't totally locked in when Spielman was roaming the middle, but to me, we haven't had anybody since that can get the job done. And to me, this is a guy that has the size, the speed, the want to, and the leadership that can be that next guy. And having a beast in the middle, to me, we don't even have a beast in the middle of the linebackers, but also the way Glover plays on the middle of the back end, and then hopefully the way we get either Ashawn to play. Like, having those guys up the middle to me is really important. So I think, again, we already said we love them, but to me, having a linebacker that's going to make all the calls, can play on third down, I'm not worried at all either about his coverage. I feel like that was just rookie stuff. He's worked on it, and it's not like he's slow or he has bad instincts, so I think he'll be fine. Last time I looked, too, it's not that easy to cover all these crazy running backs and people that they got flying out of the backfield. So if he gets a few plays on him, no big deal. Just don't get the big one or don't give up. He gave up a couple touchdowns last year in coverage. We want to limit those as much as possible. So Christian Jones, Grifka, what do you know about this guy? We brought him in from Chicago.
Fast linebacker. He's obviously, from what I've heard and read, this team, even though they say they're going to run a little 4-3, it sounds like they're going to do more of a 3-4. So he's going to be in the middle there with Jared Davis as well. I like him. He's only 27 years old. They got him on, I think a little cheaper, which is good. I think he was stuck behind a few people in Chicago. That's why he didn't really play. So I like that signing. Age, where he's at, what we're paying the guy. He's fast. And I don't think you can ever have too many fast linebackers, especially at his size. So I like this guy a lot. And I think with him and Davis, if they're running the 3-4 and those two guys in the middle, being able to go from sideline to sideline, both of them, I really like those guys a lot. Like Jones a lot, like the signing.
You know one thing you missed, Grifka, talking about JD, Jared Davis?
What's that?
You didn't compare him to some of the greats of the 90s. Give us a few names.
On a 3-4 defense? I mean, Ray Lewis? I mean, he's no Ray Lewis. I mean, is that better for you?
I mean, I thought you'd slip in either like
I was saving it for the outside linebacker, by the way, and that we'll get to that, okay? Because you know who I'm going to bring out at outside linebacker playing a 3-4. So Go ahead.
Okay, but hey, remember we don't play 3-4 or 4-3. We just play defense.
Well,
Just ask Matt Pat.
well,
But
I know. Why don't we just do like backyard football and we just line up somebody against everybody like you do, with like 11 guys go out in the pass route. We'll
yeah,
just do that. That's how we'll do it.
okay. I just wanted to slip that in, but I mean, real quick, I just want to give the size again on Christian Jones: 6'3", 245 pounds. I mean, you said he's fast, but to me, that's a big boy too, playing outside backer. And I watched a game, I think it was Lions Bears. I was just I go watch the condensed games sometimes on NFL Rewind or Game Day, whatever they call it now, and I just get through a game in a half hour. And I was watching the Chicago game, and like every time a play was being done, it was like Christian Jones on the tackle. And now part of that is because the Bears weren't that good up front, so he's making all these plays like 8 yards down the field. But man, he looked good in that game. He probably got his name called at least 8-10 times, I remember, and so I felt good about that. And you said kind of a cheap deal. Again, it's the Grifkaism where you're just anybody that makes less than $3-4 million, you think it's a good contract. Like, to me, I mean, this guy has to produce to be able to justify $3-4 million at outside linebacker. I mean, the guy never done much in the league.
We're talking the whole scheme of the salary cap, though. I mean, we've hashed this out before. That is pretty cheap, and in the whole aspect of what linebackers make, outside linebackers make. That's what it is. I mean, that's not that bad of a contract.
But it depends on his role. Like, if he comes in here and he's playing a lot, he's making plays, and he's even like a pseudo starter, oh yeah, it's a bargain. But what if this guy gets pushed down the roster by a few other guys that we'll talk about, and he's a backup or a backup to a backup, and he's making almost $4 million bucks?
That's on Bob Quinn missing on that. Then I mean, if you're thinking,
I don't say that's going to happen, but I'm just saying you got to think about these things. You can't, because the contract looks great if you're a dead starter in the NFL, but not if you're not.
But that's what I'm expecting him to be. I mean, I'm expecting this guy to come in and start. So what we're paying him as a starter, that's on the cheap. But you're right. If he's one of those guys that becomes the healthy scratch, that's on Bob Quinn for misjudging this guy.
No, it won't be a scratch. I just said he's going to be, from what I've seen, he'll be good. But we're going to talk about a few other names. My boy Jalen Reeves-Maybin. We might as well just jump into him now. Like, I was reading something the other day that there's a chance that because they play so many two linebackers that you may see a huge jump from Jalen Reeves-Maybin this year, and he's an absolute athlete that flies from sideline to sideline. Yeah. You couldn't see him and Jared Davis out there playing together.
Yeah, he's fast. I mean, I know he's a little smaller than what Matt Pat likes for linebackers, at least what they had in New England. But gosh, he's fast. I remember watching games where he was at Tennessee, and like you said, like Christian Jones in the Bears game or whatever, this guy was making tackles all over the field. So when the Lions drafted this guy, I was really happy about it. Like I said, him being a rookie, maybe his development, went a little slower, based on, jumping from, college to pro. But once again, I'm expecting a lot of things out of this guy. I mean, I love his speed. He's fast. I mean,
but the other thing is he was coming off injuries where now I think he's had a year in the scheme. He should be healthier. Like you said, he is lighter, but I bet he's put on a little bit. And to me, I at least love the upside of him. Now, in a perfect world, again, we paid Devin Kennard a lot of money too, who we're going to talk about here in a minute. But in a perfect world, to me, like, Kennard is more of a defensive end, but Jalen Reeves-Maybin to me could be the tandem with a guy like Jared Davis for a lot of coverage and a lot of like, hey, we're going to just bring the blitz here. Or, hey, we need a guy that can flank out. Like, to me, Reeves-Maybin, I got to figure out if he can cover, because I don't know that for sure, but I feel like if he can cover people, that could be his role too, is guarding tight ends, guarding guys out of the backfield, but also just being an absolute guy that gets shot out of a cannon and makes some turnovers. I'm expecting turnovers from this guy this year because of his speed and his the way he likes to hit. And that's what we need. We need fumbles. Maybe he can get a pick or two, jump in front of a route. I hope he gets some playing time. He doesn't just get pushed down and is a special teams guy or he's the fourth linebacker. I'd like to see him get some opportunities.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm hoping he sees the field a lot more than what he did last year. So
yeah. Reeves-Maybin, again, 23 years old, $750,000 on average. Need to see what he can do, and it's either got to be this year or if he doesn't get as much and these other guys play well, the following year would either be make it or break it and get out of here. But I like the kid. Let's go rate. I brought him up. We're kind of jumping around a little bit, but let's go to Devin Kennard. I didn't know much about this guy at all, but he's a big boy too, and he can rush the passer. And I don't know where he fits as far as a coverage linebacker. Do you know?
No, to be honest with you, like you said, I don't know if he can cover or not. I'm really expecting this guy to be the guy, the linebacker that puts his hand in the dirt, comes against the quarterback. That's what I think they want him for. A guy who's big enough to get off the blocks and fast enough to get to the quarterback. Put some pressure on the guy. Am I calling this guy Lawrence Taylor? No, but he is from the Giants, so. I'm expecting big things out of this guy. I'm really hoping that he's the guy that we have one of those linebackers that we can blitz and actually get to the quarterback, as opposed to, when they blitz, they run into the offensive guard who throws a, left arm up and is automatically our defender's blocked. So I think this guy is going to be able to, put some pressure on the quarterback. I sure hope that's what they do, especially for the money they gave the guy.
Right. Yeah. You can scheme him up. I'm looking at it right now. He's 6'4", almost 260 pounds. Ziggy is 6'5", 275. So he's only 15 pounds lighter or so than Ziggy and almost as tall. So what I'd like to see, remember like a few years ago where we started using Ziggy like as a stand-up guy where he would like roam around and then he would just come up the middle out of nowhere? Like, to me, he's much better as a rusher than that. So I'd love to see both Ziggy and Devin Kennard do more of that Joker jack roll where they're just walking around on the D-line. You don't know where they're going to come from. And then when the ball snaps, they either run a stunt or they just blow up the center because we got three guys all coming at the center, Yeah. There's too many people to block. I would love more of that kind of stuff. Or like you said, edge rushing, because when's the last time you saw the Lions like draw up some crazy blitz schemes where you as a fan didn't know, like you saw people creeping up, but you didn't know where they were going to come from. There hasn't been many times. Right. I mean, Terrell Austin, don't get me wrong, he had a good year or so on defense the one year, but he didn't draw up enough stuff to where I was like, oh man, look at where that guy came from, or man, that really made the difference. And so yeah, Devin Kennard's got to do that for us. Let me give his numbers real quick. 3 years, $17 million. So around $5.5, $6 million on average, $8.5 million guaranteed. I mean, like we said, that was kind of our big offensive or a big defensive signing in free agency, but I don't mind it. I mean, 27, just that mid numbers for a position that I felt like we needed a guy like this that can rush and can have some size and bulk to him. So I like it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like this signing.
All right, let's bundle a few guys up here because we got Steve Longa, Jonathan Freeney, Cam Johnson, and there's Freddie Bishop on here too. Any of those guys you want to hit on?
Camp bodies. There you go. Pick camp bodies. That's what they're. Once again, if these guys are touching the field other than special teams guys, running down on a kickoff or blocking on a extra point, our linebackers are in trouble.
All right. Well, I want to hit just on a couple of these guys. So, I remember seeing Steve Longa on Good Morning Football. He kind of has a cool story about how he got in the league and where he's come from. But I'm looking at it right here. He's only 23 years old. And I don't know. I felt like when I watched this piece and that the guy has some athletic upside, I kind of like him. You've had him around for a year or so now. So it might be something there, even a practice squad again, if we could put him there and see if he develops. And Jonathan Freeney's the guy from the Pats, Grifka, where they brought him along and we were joking about all we do is pick up Patriots guys. But to me, he's 29, only on a 1-year cheap deal. But I could see him, if we get some injuries, being a guy that could make it or could be helpful, because we're going to need people that can make plays, know the scheme. So 1 or 2 injuries, and to me, this guy is our backup linebacker, outside backer, pretty quick. So yeah. I think you can at least keep that name. Everybody that's listening, keep your name. Jonathan Freeney may sneak on this team or may be able to make a little bit of noise in the preseason. Let me see who else we got here to talk about. Who's backing up in the middle?
You don't want to talk about your boy, Nick Bellore?
We already talked about him. He's
like
over
how
on the offensive side now.
Yeah, I like how he can flex over to fullback. I think he, do some real damage, blowing up those linebackers, stuff like that, blocking for the running back.
He is a fullback now, Grifka. He's not even a linebacker anymore. But I hate him. I think he's going to be terrible. I'm looking forward to seeing Nick Bodden next year, but I don't think Nick Ballore is going to block anybody. I think he's a gadget player. He's almost like a poor man's Trey Burton is how I see him. Just a guy that
wow.
They call him a blocker. He can't block. They call him like a flex that he's a pseudo tight end. He can't catch. He's just a half gadget player that's not going to do anything. I don't like him.
Wow. Okay. I'm not a huge fan.
And he's had concussions, so I don't expect him to be out of the league before you know it too.
Yeah. Okay.
But so I'm looking at it real quick just to finish this up here on linebackers. We talked about Christian Jones. The site I'm looking at has him as an inside backer, but I have him sort of as that outside. But who knows what we're gonna do? Are you gonna play one middle and one outside? Are you gonna play Kennard down on the defensive line and have 2 or 3 linebackers? Or maybe play 4 linebackers. I have no idea what they're going to look like. But so Christian Jones is inside is probably because of how big he is. But I could see him next to Jared Davis and then Kennard as the quote unquote outside backer, but maybe he's down on the line, and then Reeves Maben as your third guy if they really go to a 3-4 look.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was an inside linebacker, like you said, maybe because of his size, but that's what I was reading him at. So yeah, with him and Davis in the middle.
But that's the thing to get used to is that we usually just think, well, Jared Davis is our inside linebacker because that's the scheme we've run for so long.
Yeah.
But in a Patricia or a versatile scheme, you almost have to have 2 big middles, which I almost got to see that before I can get it in my brain that you could have 2 middle inside linebackers on the field more times than not.
Yeah, I'm so used to, with the lines. I'm so used to seeing a 4-3. I always think of just one middle linebacker. So
right, yeah, we got to get out of that. Got to get out of our old habits because there's going to be people playing and coming from everywhere. I think, and we'll see that when we're down at training camp.
Yeah.
Trevor Bates was the other one I wanted to hit on just for a second. He was another Patriot, I believe, and this guy's younger. He's only 24 years old, 1-year deal. Almost the minimum. I mean, I think he might be a guy to keep an eye on as well. Just again, former Patriot, young. They brought him here. Maybe they have a role or a thought for him as a depth player.
Like you said, he comes in because he knows the scheme. He's, Patricia coached him over in New England, so that's pretty much why he's here.
Yep. I'm not seeing anybody else. I mean, they have here as an inside backer, Daryl Sankey. I've never heard of him. I can't see him doing anything. And then there's a guy. He's not even on my list, I don't think. Let me see if I can find him. I should have pulled up all the undrafted rookies. He is here. He's just listed as a general linebacker. Chad Meredith, Grifka. You know that name?
Yeah, he got like a 3-year contract or something like that? Yeah, he's just a linebacker.
Oh yeah, all the undrafted guys have that 3-year, $1.7 million.
Yeah.
Southeast Missouri State. He's a big guy. I don't have his.
From what he was one of those guys I've read different spots. Like he could be that one of those because undrafted guys always make the team. He could be one of those guys that makes the team. Starts out on special teams, learns the ropes, and in a few years he's on the field. So yeah, I was reading stuff about him. That he's like you said, small school guy, probably needs some coaching up to be able to make the jump from the small school up to the pros. So he might be one of those guys when the Lions get him, they might hide him on the practice squad and see how he turns out.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I heard the other day there's probably like 3 small school guys. We have to watch for a couple receivers and then a linebacker and a corner. So we've talked about them all throughout the process, but we'll be able to keep our eyes on Ford, Redding, are the receiver in the corner, and then you got this guy at linebacker, and you got another player too. I mean, I don't see any of those guys making a huge impact, but they definitely have to be accounted for because usually one guy comes out of camp, So yeah. I think one of those guys, and I wouldn't mind it if it was the linebacker, because I think we could use a little depth, especially in the middle there and add some punch to the unit. So Grifka kind of, bundle up those linebackers, give us, without going over everything we have. I know sometimes we repeat ourselves here on the podcast, but kind of, is this unit going to be better than last year? Who's going to be an impact guy? And are they good enough to be NFL linebacking core this year?
Yeah, I believe this unit's going to be better. One reason, because we got rid of Tahir Whitehead. I mean, I know it sounds mean, but he's gone. So they got Kennard, they got Jones. They're big fast guys. Davis, I'm expecting a big jump out of him, and like you said, Reeves Maven. I'm hoping to see more of him on the field where he can just go sideline to sideline, make tackles. So I'm pretty happy with what we have. Once again, the guys behind it though make me worry, like we were talking here a couple of not too long ago. As for the O-line, just kind of covering that again. Once again, I know we kicked this horse a bunch of times, but yeah, these guys got to be on the field an awful lot for this team to be successful. The 5 main guys we're looking at.
Yep, man, sounds good. I feel the same way. I think it should be better. Tahir Whitehead was here for a while and was a good soldier, but I think we've upgraded in those positions. Plus, we got more versatility. Plus, we have a better defensive mind, calling the plays, and organizing that unit from the head coach perspective. So, I think they can't be anything but better and stronger and tougher, which is really what we need. And I'm just excited to see a new look. New blitzes, new defensive scheme, and a scheme that hopefully will change from week to week so that we can just win ball games. That's really all I care about. So really excited to see all that. Grifka, we have made it through dollars and cents, man. We talked a lot of financials and a lot about each player on this football team. I feel like we hit everybody that we need to. We know that punters and kickers are people too, but you guys know who those people are. We're not going to go through them, but we're excited to see this team. We're going to be down there at training camp together, getting our eyes on these guys and having some fun out at Allen Park, which would be awesome. And looking forward to that. To all the people out there listening, we've really appreciated. We got like a lot of you new listeners. We're trying to get the word out a little bit more about the podcast. So look for us. Like, here we are. We got football now. So me and Grifka haven't totally talked it over. We're doing this kind of on the fly, building this up from ground up. But the hope is now that we have real football, real games, we're going to bring some more and some different podcasts to you. You might hear me doing some solo episodes. We might get Grifka all set up at his the Grifka Studios over there where he can do a solo or do some episodes if he wants. And hopefully we'll come to you and do some game recaps and all types of stuff. But it all just depends on how we get set up and what kind of time. But we're looking to talk Lions football all year long. We hope that you'll subscribe on iTunes, give us a positive review. And there may even be a hangout. We may be hanging out, tailgating, Grifka, for the home opener and have some Detroit Koolaid out and about. So maybe more details on that as we come. But keep supporting us. We love it, and we know that you guys love Lions football. So anything to say before we get out of here, Grifka?
Season's here. Let's go Lions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's do this. Everybody, thanks so much for listening. We'll come back at you soon with another episode of the Detroit Koolaid Podcast.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions. Drink it in, man.